Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Brandon, and welcome back to Marotta Media. This is a video that I've contemplated making for quite some time now because it's going to be a little bit different than what I normally do. As you guys know, if you have been following me or if you just stumbled upon this page, if you have, then welcome. But obviously, my main shtick on this channel is movie reviews. I try to review as many movies as I can throughout the year, but there was something lately that was on my mind and I felt like it needed a full video discussing it. And that topic is live-action remakes of popular animated films. But I didn't think it was necessary to put them into two videos. I thought, let's just put them into one because it seems necessary. And those two live-action remakes, as I'm sure you are aware, are Lilo and Stitch and How to Train Your Dragon. Both of these movies, I think, are very flawed for very different reasons. And I will be going over both of them, but I will be going over heavy spoilers for both. So if you don't want those movies spoiled for you, if you haven't seen them yet, then do not watch this video. But I will be going over both of these movies and giving my thoughts on why I don't think either of them are necessary. Because as I said, I have big problems with both of them for very different reasons. So let's start with the first movie that was released at the end of May, Lilo and Stitch. This Lilo and Stitch is a remake of the 2002 animated film of the same name. That is a movie that I absolutely adore. I grew up with it. But that movie is very near and dear to me. It was a big part of my childhood, and I was very nervous to see that it was going to be the latest victim of a live-action remake. And yeah, my suspicions were absolutely correct, because the live-action Lilo and Stitch is not a good movie at all. And the biggest problem with the live-action Lilo and Stitch specifically is that this movie changes so much. And it changes so much, in fact, that it feels like the heart of the original story is lost. So let's start with a change that was made that I actually understand why they did it, but I still don't think it worked in a live-action setting. That being Jumba and Pleakley. Just in case you haven't seen the original film, Jumba and Pleakley are two aliens that are chasing after Stitch after he crash lands on Earth. And it's up to them to bring him back to the Galactic Federation. And in the original Lilo and Stitch, Jumba and Pleakley are keeping an eye on Stitch by dressing as human beings. And namely, with Pleakley dressed like a woman a lot, dressing in drag, which is something that they didn't include and a lot of people got mad about, but I understand why they didn't do it. But in a cartoon setting, you and I know as viewers that those are two aliens just wearing human clothing. But for the people in that world, they think that they're just regular humans, they just look a little bit odd. But in the real world, like what you and I see before us, if we saw two aliens dressed like that, we would obviously know that something was wrong. So to make up for this, they decided to make Jumba and Pleakley human. Well, not make them human, but disguise themselves as humans through this cloaking device that they have. And Jumba is played by Zach Galifianakis, and Pleakley is played by Billy Manguson. So we just see the two of them in their normal human form wandering around Hawaii looking for Stitch. And like I said, I totally understand why they made this change, but it just makes it a lot less interesting to watch. It's a lot more interesting if we see two aliens in their normal form looking for another alien experiment. But if we just see two humans doing it, then that just feels like something that you would see in any other movie. There's nothing that makes it stand out. Now let's get to another change that they made within Lilo and Stitch, and that is the character of Nani. Nani obviously being Lilo's sister, who is forced to be her guardian after the death of their parents. And Nani is obviously very much in over her head. She wants what's best for Lilo, but she's not really sure how to provide for her, because she's still basically a kid herself. And a big change they made from the original movie is Nani taking Lilo to the shelter to buy a dog. Because in that scene, we hear Lilo praying to whoever is listening that she just wants a friend, someone who understands her because she feels very lonely. And Nani hears all of this by eavesdropping through the door, so the next day Nani takes her to a dog shelter so she can get a dog. But in this movie, that does not happen at all. Instead of Nani taking Lilo to a shelter, it's instead their neighbor, whose name I don't even remember, who takes her, not even really takes her to the shelter. They just happen to go in. They were just hanging out and Lilo's like, I'm gonna go to the shelter because I like to feed dogs candy. And that's where she finds Stitch. And the neighbor is like, oh, this dog makes you so happy. I'm going to buy this dog for you. And when they go back to Nani, Nani says, what? You bought her a dog? Why would you do such a thing? And this really confused me because in the live action movie, we see this same scene where Nani is listening to Lilo praying for a friend. So she was just going to do nothing about it. She was just going to let her sister pray and not act on it. But it also doesn't feel like there's any pressure on Nani to take care of Lilo in this movie from social services because their social services agent seems very lenient, which is the polar opposite of their social services agent in the animated version, that being Cobra Bubbles. But in this movie, Cobra Bubbles is just a run-of-the-mill CIA agent that is also looking for Stitch. So it doesn't really feel like there's any pressure on Nani, because in the animated version, Cobra Bubbles was constantly on Nani's ass, telling her, you need to get your shit together or I'm going to take your sister away from you. But you never feel that pressure in the live action version. But something else that feels like it was completely ruined in the live action Lilo and Stitch is the relationship between the titular characters. Lilo and Stitch in the animated version really had a bond with one another, but in this movie, it doesn't ever really feel like that. They just feel like two people that were playing with each other, and that's really it. And the emotional core of their relationship comes from the ugly duckling story that Lilo reads to Stitch, where Stitch realizes that he is very lonely and he doesn't have a family, and that's precisely his entire character arc. He realizes that the family he was meant to find was Lilo and Nani. But it all leads to an ending that I'm sure you've heard about, and it was very offensive in the grand scheme of things, and it kind of just renders Stitch as a pointless character in the end. Because at the end of the live-action Lilo and Stitch, Nani gives up custody of Lilo so she can go to college. And this is talked about all throughout the movie, that Nani really wants to go to college and study marine biology, but she's like, I can't, I've got to take care of Lilo. But the neighbor that took Lilo to the shelter tells Nani several times throughout that she will take care of Lilo if anything happens to Nani. And she even says, you should go to college, follow your dreams, don't worry about Lilo, I will take care of her. And at the end, she finally decides, okay, you know what, I am going to go to college and I'm going to give up custody of my sister. Which feels like it goes against the entire point of the movie. Ohana means family, and family means nobody gets left behind or forgotten. But apparently you do get left behind and forgotten if you want to go to college. But what makes this even funnier is that Nani goes to college on the mainland. She goes to college in like San Diego or something like that. And if you ask me, I don't think there is a better place in the world to go to college and study marine biology than fucking Hawaii. So in the end, she probably could have made her dreams come true and still taken care of her sister, but I guess you can't have it both ways in this story, huh? And this entire ending just renders Stitch pointless in the end, because Stitch made Nani and Lilo realize just how much they needed each other in the end. But if you think about it, in this live-action version, if Stitch never showed up, then Nani still probably would have gone to college anyway, and still given up custody of her sister. They made so many changes within this version of Lilo and Stitch. It just very much feels like they lost the vision and what the original movie was about. Now let's get to the live-action version of How to Train Your Dragon. This movie is the polar opposite of Lilo and Stitch. For reference, I watched the original animated How to Train Your Dragon on the same day that I watched the live-action version. So the animated version was very much fresh in my head. And I will just give you my thoughts on this movie by saying this. I watched the same movie twice in one day. The live-action How to Train Your Dragon is literally the exact same movie as the animated version. Shot for shot, line for line, beat for beat. The only thing that it does differently is add a few pointless scenes that last a few seconds, and the movie is somehow 30 minutes longer. And I will say that even though I did not like the live-action Lilo and Stitch movie, I will give that movie credit because it had the balls to try something new. It tried to make a new story out of an original, existing, and beloved IP. How to Train Your Dragon does not do that at all. It almost feels like it's too afraid to do anything different out of fear of pissing someone off. And if they tried to do something different, then I would have applauded it, because I think this is the perfect movie to try and do something different if you're trying to adapt it into a live-action format. But they didn't do anything. They didn't expand on the world, the characters, nothing new happened, nothing at all. And I'm a little bit confused by the people that were praising the live-action How to Train Your Dragon, because I've seen so many people say that this movie is perfect, it's everything they wanted, and it's the best live-action remake we've gotten. Granted, that's not saying much, because the bar is on the floor. But when people say, this is everything I wanted, that confuses me. You just wanted to see the exact same movie except with real human beings and CGI dragons? It just feels like all of the magic is lost when it comes to adapting these movies into live action. And both of these movies just perfectly showcase the problem with these live-action remakes as a whole. It feels like these studios just never know what to do with these movies, because they know they're gonna make money, so they feel like they either have to change everything that the original heart of the story is lost, or change nothing at all out of fear that somebody might be upset. I personally believe that if these studios want to continue to make these live-action remakes, and let's be honest, we all know they are, because, like I said, they make money, so they're not gonna stop making them. Because, I mean, let's face it, they're already remaking Moana into a live-action movie, and that movie isn't even 10 years old at the time I'm recording this video. But if they want to continue to remake these animated movies into live action, then it's a very simple thing. All you need to do is just do things that work better in a live action setting than animated, change a few things in the story to make it feel fresh, but also maintain the heart of the story. Because I truly think if the live-action How to Train Your Dragon remake just changed a few things here and there, but was basically the same story for, I would say, maybe 70% of it, then it would have been a phenomenal film. But then there are times where movies are just better suited for an animated format. Lilo and Stitch is a prime example. Because as I said, two aliens dressed as Hawaiian tourists are not going to look as funny in live action than they do in an animated setting. So they change it all up by making them into humans, and it completely loses its charm. It's not as fun to watch. Lilo and Stitch never should have been made into a live-action movie, and that much is clear. Movies like How to Train Your Dragon can absolutely work in a live-action setting, but if you're too afraid to even attempt to do something different, then why bother? And I have seen nothing but praise for these movies. I've even seen quite a few people saying that the live-action Lilo and Stitch is better than the animated version, and that is just a blasphemous take. That is not true at all. And I know, it's all subjective. People can think that if they want to. But I genuinely want to know, what did the live-action Lilo and Stitch movie do better than its animated counterpart? In my opinion, the answer is nothing. And How to Train Your Dragon is the exact same way. It doesn't do anything better than its animated counterpart. The acting isn't nearly as good, the dragons just kinda look silly in live action, except Toothless, he's still adorable. The costumes are very cartoony, the line delivery is cartoony, it just doesn't work. And people will praise these live-action remakes and say how incredible they are, but let's be honest, people. If you had the opportunity to choose between these classic animated films and these soulless, lifeless, pointless live-action remakes, are you really gonna choose the live-action remake? Even if you thought the live-action Lilo and Stitch or How to Train Your Dragon were both great movies, are you ever going to watch either of them again? I'll be honest, I don't think you are. I think you will always revert back to the animated ones because they're just superior in every single way. And I just had to get all of those thoughts out there because this is something that I've been thinking about making for a while, and I just want to see if anyone else agrees with me. Because from what I've seen, it seems like I am in the minority with these live-action remakes. People have just been encouraging them, and it seems like a lot of people love them. But let me know what you guys think about this. Did you guys see the live-action Lilo and Stitch and How to Train Your Dragon? And if so, what were your thoughts on them? Did you think they were great, or did you think they were bad or pointless? Please let me me know in the comments. I would love to know. But if you guys like this video, be sure to hit that thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe. If you want to see my previous reviews, I will link those right over here. Other than that, I hope you all have a tremendous rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.